There's that pencil. The other one, the lead is over.
City website.
Might be out.
Good evening, everyone.
On the city website
Welcome
and look
to
for the-
the Common Council meeting. Today is April 3rd at 7:30 p.m. here in City Hall. I'm going to ask for help with roll call.
Okay, Alder Shaver.
Here.
Wokus.
Here.
Cole.
Here.
Mayor Kuhn.
Here.
Alder Nelson.
Here.
Alder Jackson.
Here.
Alder Hanairo.
Here.
Alder Lorman.
Here.
Alder Crow.
Here.
Thank you. I'm going to ask that we start with proclamations and then move to public comments. And the reason is that we have a lot of city staff here and we want to make sure that we honor them and then let them go so we can listen to public comments and be fully listening in. All right, so the first one is proclamations. Number 1, National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. The proclamation, whereas the Middleton Police Department Communication Center plays a vital role in the protection of human life and property in our community, and whereas telecommunicators of the Middleton Police Department endure long hours, abnormal work schedules, and handle frequent life and death emergencies while achieving high standards in performing their duties in a dedicated, diligent, and compassionate manner. And whereas the safety of our police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from people who contact the Middleton Police Department Communications Center. And whereas telecommunicators are the initial first responders to every call and often the first critical contact that residents and visitors to Middleton have with emergency services. And whereas the staff of the Middleton Police Department Communications Center have a combined total of 141 years of service to the Middleton community, and whereas each member of the Communications Center has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. And whereas our public safety communications personnel serve the public 24 hours a day, 365 days a year in countless ways, oftentimes without due recognition by those who receive their services. Now, therefore, the City of Middleton declares the week of April 14th through April 20th, 2024 to be National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in the City of Middleton, in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and residents safe. This proclamation was adopted at a regular meeting of the Middleton Common Council on the 3rd day of April, 2024. Is there a motion?
Schaefer moves.
Is there a second?
Jackson second.
Any comments? We just want to say thank you to all of our hardworking folks on the front lines. All those in favor of approving the proclamation, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And Brian, can we take a picture? So y'all have to come up.
You're the supervisor. He does all the hard work.
All right, moving on to the proclamation for National Library Week. My understanding is we have some presenters.
Thank you so much for including this on the agenda this evening. If you don't have a library card, you can sign up for one at midlibrary.org. And of course, a big initiative right now is our bookmobile. We have some information over on the right. I'd like to quick introduce library trustee Steph Morris, library patron Griffin Johnson, and of course, Alder Crow, who will be reading this evening's proclamation. Thank you.
Good evening. Proclamation for National Library Week 2024. Whereas libraries offer the opportunity for everyone to connect with others, learn new skills, and pursue their passions, no matter where they are on life's journey. Whereas libraries have long served as trusted institutions, striving to ensure equitable access to information and services for all members of the community, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or socioeconomic status. Whereas libraries adapt to the ever-changing needs of their communities, developing and expanding collections, programs, and services that are as diverse as the populations they serve. Whereas libraries are accessible and inclusive places that promote a sense of local connection, advancing understanding, civic engagement, and shared community goals. Whereas libraries play a pivotal role in economic development by providing resources and support for job seekers, entrepreneurs, and small businesses, thus contributing to local prosperity and growth.
Whereas libraries make choices that are good for the environment and make sense economically, creating thriving communities for a better tomorrow. Whereas libraries are treasured institutions that preserve our collective heritage and knowledge, safeguarding both physical and digital resources for present and future generations. Whereas libraries are an essential public good and fundamental institutions in democratic societies working to improve society, protect the right to education and literacy, and promote the free exchange of information and ideas for all. Whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers are joining library supporters and advocates across the nation to celebrate National Library Week.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Common Council of the City of Middleton and Mayor Cohen hereby proclaim National Library Week, April 7th through 13, 2024. During this week, we encourage all residents to visit their library and celebrate the adventures and opportunities they unlock for us every day. Ready, set, library. This proclamation was adopted at a regular meeting of the Middleton Common Council on the third day of April 2024.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I will make that motion.
Is there a second?
This is Jackson. I'll second it.
Any comments of our libraries? Thank you. All those in favor of approving the proclamation, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And can we do a picture too? Sorry, let's take that. Next time. Okay, moving on to public comments, and I want to say thank you to our public for your patience. It's really good that we can honor our staff. Just want to say thank you for that. All right, so our first public comments are the folks that do not wish to speak. I will read the agenda item and then their state or their how they feel. So is there maybe someone on microphone or mute? Okay, thank you. Just double checking. Okay, thank you. The first one is agenda item ordinance to amend the flu and zoning for 7617 Terrace Avenue. And the person is Robert Zimmerman. And Robert opposes the item but wishes not to speak. Next is rezoning 7617 Terrace Avenue. And It says Troy Acker. Is that accurate? Troy Acker, thank you. And he is opposed and does not wish to speak. Again, 7617 Terrace Avenue, Maya Aker. And she does not wish to speak and opposes the item and is also available to answer questions if we have any. The next item is the Terrace Avenue rezoning and development of apartment building. Ellen Wenden opposes the item but wishes not to speak. Terrace Avenue rezoning and development, Gordon Simmel opposes the item but does not wish to speak. Ordinances items 1 and 2. I'm assuming that's the same. Yes, the flu map and 7617. Okay. Matt Waldren opposes the item but does not wish to speak. And the Terrace Avenue development, Jean Ridigas, I believe. Okay, Rihas. Thank you. Opposes the item but does not wish to speak. Okay. And as a reminder, public comments are limited to 3 minutes. These are the folks that wish to speak. The agenda item is ordinances to amend the flu map and rezone 7617 Terrace Avenue. The first person is Ann Johnson. Can you please come to the front and state your name and address? And same for the other speakers.
Hello, my name is Ann Johnson. I live at 1720 Aurora Street. I do not agree with the potential amendment to the flu map and the city's comprehensive plan. I do not support the rezoning of 7617 Terrace Avenue. Tonight, I ask that you please vote no on both ordinances. In attending the Plan Commission meeting on March 26th, I was struck by a phrase the developer used when speaking to the council. She asked them to, quote, provide confidence for her to move forward on the project and for them to approve the rezoning. As a result of looking to provide that for her, we are here tonight facing this vote of rezoning on Terrace Ave. But I ask you, in all honesty, why is this development necessary when the surrounding apartment buildings of similar sizes built less than 5 years ago are at roughly 50% capacity, and instead a small historic neighborhood is asked to bear the burden of rezoning to accommodate a 5-story, 70-unit development they explicitly don't want? In looking to answer that question, it becomes even more confusing that within less than 6 months of it having been implemented, the city's comprehensive plan and flu map already has amendments potentially altering it. This project feels oddly rushed, and with the variety of contributing factors to consider, the effects of blasting near historic buildings, the environmental corridor, the proximity to a daycare, the rezoning of a single-family home, the city's water source, and staunch neighborhood disapproval, I genuinely don't understand why it continues to move forward seemingly unopposed within city offices. To be perfectly honest, I also do not trust if hypothetically an altered plan is put in place with rezoning approved and the proposed development moves forward, that the terms set would be adhered to. I fear that the Mid-Thune parcel could just simply be built upon with no real consequence for the developer. More homes in the area could begin to be rezoned, and soon all of Terrace Avenue is comprised of apartment complexes where historic buildings once stood. The potential of setting this kind of precedent at this kind of pace is alarming to me. I ask that you tonight provide confidence to the residents affected by this development. Allow us to trust that those elected and who hold office in Middleton care about the people and the homes in the neighborhoods they serve, not the money and outside interest that seek to displace them. I do not support the rezoning on Terrace Avenue, and I do not support this proposed development, altered or not. Please move this project to an area that could better support its design rather than this precious amount of green space in a historic neighborhood that wants nothing to do with it. Vote no to rezone. Thank you.
Next. Thank you. 7617 Terrace Avenue, Mary Beckle.
Hello, I have attended the last two Planning Commission meetings and I'm here today to oppose the rezoning of 7617 Terrace and oppose the changing of the flu map. Firstly, it involves rezoning a single-family home for the sole purpose of demolishing it. And as a new homeowner, as of March 1st in the city of Middleton, I ask all of the Common Council members and the mayor to tell me why demolishing a single-family home in order to build apartment buildings is necessary, especially if it's something that you campaigned on and you've promised your residents. Thank you. Additionally, I would like to state that the alternative concept, while I do appreciate the option more than the previous concept because it doesn't involve blasting an undeveloped parcel of land, I just don't understand why there's no requirement for any sort of commercial development. I understand that usually commercial development is required to be on a four-corner lot, but if this proposed alternative concept is to use the parking lot, the surface lot, the current Verns Auto Body Shop, and then the Mariner parcel to the right, I think that the city needs to have full promise that there will be a commercial development that will at least guarantee some level of engagement with the city. I don't think it's necessary that this specific rezoning measure is approved today. If the developers just found out that there's this alternative concept, I think we need to see the entire development, especially if it's going to use the surface lot that the Community Development Authority needs to approve. I don't understand the cart before the horse mentality. I agree this feels extremely rushed. And to be honest, I've heard directly from Alder Hanairo about her desire to make all of Terrace Avenue mixed-use development, which you said at the public forum at Village Green. So right now it feels like the future land use map is just being changed and altered after the fact. Homeowners are not guaranteed any sort of future if you change what you've promised them. And that does not bode well for building public trust. Thank you.
Ordinance to amend flu and zoning 7617 Terrace Avenue, Jerry Ann Holzman.
Good evening, I'm Jerry Ann Holzman. I live at 7437 Terrace Avenue with my husband, Rob Zimmerman. And we urge you to vote against the rezoning of 7617 Terrace Avenue and the flu map. The south side of Terrace Avenue is a natural buffer between downtown Madison businesses and its residential area. Some city staff and alders consider all of Terrace Avenue as part of the downtown business district. The Terrace Avenue residents and neighbors do not consider our neighborhoods and homes as a commercial area. We live here for the proximity to downtown businesses and all that Middleton has to offer. We live here to raise our family, walk our dogs, and not to have to worry that suddenly there will be a high-rise apartment next door to us that could affect the value of our properties. This is a street of mostly over 100-year-old houses. Why change the historic nature of these prized neighborhoods that make Middleton what it is today? Would you bow to the request of a developer if they wanted to rezone parts of Hubbard and Elmwood that are just as close to downtown with just as historic homes? Where will it go next if you open the gate to this happening on Terrace Avenue? Secondly, Middleton already has a crisis due to low number of single-family homes being built and an overabundance of one-bedroom apartments. Staff member Daphne Zhu at the Planning Commission meeting pointed this out in her presentation. Why build more apartments when Middleton needs single-family homes? Why would it not make more sense for this to be 2 flats or row houses that would be more appropriate to the neighborhood? Rather than rezoning the property on Terrace Avenue to multi-use, would it not have been better to have rezoned the old Verns site to a 2-family residential? Just because your predecessors made a mistake in zoning Verns doesn't mean that you need to repeat that mistake. And why should you destroy an established neighborhood, view of the hillside, to build the high-rise apartments with 70 apartments when there's over 150 apartments currently available within 1 mile radius of this development, including right across the street. Just because a developer may have made a bad investment and assumes the city would automatically provide them with rezoning does not mean the city should cave to these demands. What is to keep other developers from coming in and snatching up other properties and doing the same? There's many other properties near downtown Middleton that are more appropriate, including the city-owned lot at the corner of University and Parmenter Street. We've seen this happen in Madison on East Wash and West Wash. They are not the neighborhoods that they were, but they have done smart development on Willie Street and on East Johnson Street where they put in townhomes and row houses that were much more appropriate for the neighborhood. Thank you for your time.
7617 Terrace Avenue, John Beckle.
Good evening. My name is John Beckle. I live at 7709 Hillcrest Avenue, and I've been a homeowner in Middleton for 20 years. Thank you, council members, for giving your time and energy to the city. A lot of resources go into the city's comprehensive plan, and its worthwhile effort provided as followed. The plan provides continuity and a long-term vision. There can be unexpected changing conditions like the flooding in 2018 or a major economic shift, but the plan serves as a document that the citizens can count on to plan their own future. I characterize it as an informal contract based on trust between the city's government and its residents. Tonight, you're being asked by a developer to compromise that trust by altering the future land use map and rezone a residential lot designated established neighborhood to multi-use downtown. There's been no major change in the area to affect the comprehensive plan. A developer bought a residential lot for a residential price and now wants it rezoned multi-use downtown, resulting in it being worth more on the market. On March 12th, the developer showed the Planning Commission a vague, not-to-scale rendering of a giant 5-story building with 71 bedroom luxury apartments that they might construct, but they're given permission to blast the hillside to make a flat spot. The city planning office, to their credit, came back with an alternate plan on March 26th, offering the developer the opportunity to build over a city-owned lot, thus not having a blast. There's no firm plan and no reason to vote on rezoning now, except that the developer has bought a residential lots and wants it rezoned. The developer might build on it or just sell it. All elected and appointed officials that say we need more single-family homes, well, here's your chance to preserve one. You'll hear that the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend a rezoning. But based on what? I urge you to question the Planning Commission's judgment. I heard the alder that sits on the Planning Commission tell one of our constituents that she would never consider selling a city park. Well, you just sold Fireman's Park, a $2 million piece of property, for $1,000. I don't think you wanted to, but you were illegally painted into a corner due to poor judgment and dereliction of duty and bad advice from the Planning Commission over a period of several years. I've attended the last 2 Planning Commission meetings. There's no vision, no unity of effort. The Planning Commission are like oarsmen in a rowboat, each rowing to their own cadence, working against each other, and the citizens are the unnerved passengers stuck in the middle. The comprehensive plan and flu map should be the rudder for the boat. If you negate it with the yes vote tonight to rezone, the boat will be adrift completely. Even the boat's captain wants to abandon ship. So please carefully consider what information the Plan Commission gives you. Ask questions, challenge assumptions, and don't let the Plan Commission lead you astray again. Thank you.
Ordinances 1 and 2, Sher DeAlvarez.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sher DeAlvarez. I live at 7509 Terrace Avenue, and I am here to state my opposition to amending the future land use map and to the rezoning of 7617 Terrace Avenue. I oppose these changes for 2 main reasons, both of which I hope you had a chance to read in the email that I sent to each of you yesterday. First, we as residents have been asked to believe that the city's comprehensive plan was put in place to, quote, prioritize our values, and map out our future for the next 20 years, end quote. But here we are today, just 4 months later, being told that this comprehensive plan needs to be amended. If the comprehensive plan is already so out of date that it needs to be changed 4 months in, how is it going to be of any value years down the road? This recommendation for amendment on the part of the Plan Commission comes across to the public as careless at best, and at worst, deceitful. Secondly, the Plan Commission is recommending these changes to you absent any actual plan. The initial proposal for this property, as well as the Plan Commission's last-minute alternative concept for this property, are both shown in your agenda packet. But please note, the alternative concept, which the Plan Commission has already put their support behind, sight unseen, would first require the input of the Community Development Authority, which, at least according to public record and the developer herself, has not even met yet. And without the CDA's input, the developer cannot move forward with any specific plans at all. So this alternative concept is very literally nothing more than a blue rectangle overlaid on the map of Terrace Avenue. Rushing to change the flu map and rezone a property based solely on a developer's desire to do so with no actual proposal provided is to make a mockery of even having adopted a comprehensive plan to begin with. For the record, I am not against development, but I am against development that requires compromising the commitment the city has made to its residents through its comprehensive plan. And I am definitely against development that is being supported and advanced without the existence of any actual plan. Thank you.
Ordinances 1 and 2, Javier Alvarez.
Good evening. My name is Javier Alvarez. I live in 7509 Terrace Avenue. I've spent most of my career in corporate America, and I have seen many a times where good intentions fall flat because of bad data. Corporate America, we manage terabytes and terabytes of data, and we suffer from one thing: bias confirmation. On the last meeting of the council, I saw certain slides that came from staff here, which kind of answer the question of why are we doing this in the first place? Where is the need coming from? Where is the pressure coming from? What I saw was a very, very narrow view of what the data shows, which is an assumption that people want to live here because they work here. What I didn't see was the cut demographics of what type of people work here and what are their needs specifically, right? I know the mayor has put in place a survey to see what type of housing do we need. And the data that was made public to everybody of us doesn't show that what we're looking for is 1-bedroom luxury apartments. Now, what I want to put this in context is you guys are the board of directors in a way. We are your stakeholders. And unfortunately, the Planning Commission is working as consultants. Red flag popped up for me on the last council meeting in this idea that somebody copy pasted a template from an external source to create that plan. That is very dangerous because the objective of those things is just to sell you something. And thus, as your representatives, I'll say, what are they trying to sell you, right? I put this a water warning. Question the data. Ask for the cross-section tabs on the demographics, on the income level, and who is willing to actually pay for what is being offered. If those things don't match, that hole doesn't belong here. Tread very carefully, because unless, like Oscar Promedica, we can shift very quickly, the city cannot pivot as fast. Once you make the decision, when the building is there, the precedent is set, and there is no turning back for any of us. Thank you so much.
Blue map and rezoning, Todd Ostrom. Ostrom, thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Todd Ostrom. I live at 7708 Hillcrest Avenue, and I am opposed to the changes to the flu map and the property zoning. Let's pretend for just a minute that you live in the White House right next to the house being destroyed with this zoning change. You've lived here for 25 years. You've walked your kids to Little Red Preschool. You rode bikes with your kids to the library to check out a book. And occasionally you enjoyed pie at the diner. You've hosted family reunions in your backyard in beautiful surroundings. Now, you know with the zoning change, your White House will reside right next to a 5-story complex full of temporary neighbors. Those beautiful surroundings in your backyard, they're gone. Let's be honest, none of you would want that. None of you would vote for that. Thank you.
Rezoning and flu, Angie Ostrom.
My name is Angie Ostrom. I live at 7708 Hillcrest Avenue, and I stand opposed to the rezoning and changes of the flu map. Middleton City Hall is in the middle of a public relations nightmare, and it is of your own doing. The actions of both past and present employees have cost you the trust of what I would say is the majority of your constituency. You are entrusted to make logical, honest, responsible decisions on our behalf. And some of you have forgotten this. Constituents' distrust is warranted, it is deserved, and it is on public record. Most recent examples of poor decisions coming from this building, you gave permission to build a parking lot behind the high school that was not your permission to give. The deceit, the lies, the cover-up that came from this building, I have seen, and it is embarrassing. It's all in black and white. It's all on paper. It's for everybody to see. It's there. It is astounding and it is infuriating. Because of your irresponsible and dishonest decision, a parking lot was built at great expense, and now it will need to be removed at great expense. City Hall recently published the 2021 comprehensive plan, and then you quickly tossed it aside because it didn't fit your agenda for Verns. You have now given yourself the power to rezone and make changes to future land use at your will to fit your agenda. It's called proactive zoning. It's a power grab by City Hall, and it is wrong. Your constituents are rightly asking, where will you stop? We have a controversial apartment complex planned for Allen Boulevard that has now led to a recall effort against the mayor. If you don't believe there's distrust in City Hall, then you aren't listening. And now here we are with Verns. There has not been one fundamental, factual, rational reason given by any of you as to why this is the best plan for that parcel of land and why it is right for us, the people who live there, the people you serve. I tried to get an answer from City Hall. I requested a meeting with the mayor on March 14th, gave her my word. I would not argue with her. I just wanted to hear one reason. Just give me a valid reason. She didn't have time for me. She directed me to my alderperson. As of today's date, I have heard nothing. So I'm asking you tonight to tell us why you feel this plan is a good decision and why you're giving it your City Hall rubber stamp of approval. Don't tell us it's because Dane County and Middleton are in need of apartments. We know it's not true. Look across the street. Don't tell us about population density or how city halls across the country are proactively rezoning. We want a fundamental, honest, valid, rational reason from you as to why this project is a good thing for us. The people who live there, the people you serve. Remember this, do unto others as you would have done unto you. Thank you.
Rezone 7617 Terrace Avenue, Chris and Jim Buckner. Beekner, thank you.
I thought I chose to
Oh,
oppose.
but not speak. Thank you so much for noting that. No worries. I appreciate that. And next ordinances, items 1 and 2, Julie Waldren.
My name is Julie Waldren. I live at 7704 Hillcrest Avenue. I am opposed to and urge you to vote no to items 1 and 2 under tonight's ordinances. That's the blue map change and the rezoning of the Mariner property on Terrace, 7617 Terrace. First, these actions would require the council to change the comprehensive plan and zoning ordinances that just went into effect weeks ago. What is the good of a comprehensive plan when it can be changed piece by piece by a developer and the Plan Commission? Please stand behind the work that was done and let citizens know the comprehensive plan means what it says. Quote, "This document is intended to prioritize our values and map out our future for the next 20 years. To do otherwise is to undermine trust citizens have that city government means what it says and takes its commitments seriously. Second, this would set a precedent for a developer to buy residential homes or any other type of parcel and then just get the flu map changed and then get them rezoned in order to develop apartment buildings. All common council members should care about this precedent because it will affect everyone's districts and constituents. Third, once the rezoning and flu map amendments happen, there is no guarantee that the developer will follow any of the tenets of the alternative concept that was hastily presented at last week's Plan Commission meeting. The Plan Commission voted to refer the alternative concept to the Community Development Authority, but wants to move ahead with the flu map changes and rezoning before the CDA even has a chance to weigh in. This feels like the Plan Commission is trying to sneak these changes through without anyone noticing. Finally, I urge you to slow down and question the wisdom of the proposed Verns redevelopment. The original concept was met with extensive opposition. We don't currently have any guarantees that the Middleton parcel will be donated to Conservancy, whether blasting will be required, and the size and height of the building are out of line with the flu map and comprehensive plan I already mentioned. The luxury, mostly one-bedroom layout we saw would do nothing to help provide affordable family housing or opportunities for home ownership that we need here in Middleton, as the mayor has stated. Please don't give the Plan Commission free rein to push through their agenda. And please don't give the developer the ability to irreparably harm this portion of our downtown. Thank you.
Rezoning Terrace Avenue, Julie Colmer Davis.
Good evening. My name is Julie Colmar Davis, and I live at 7739 Hillcrest Avenue. I am asking the council to vote no on the rezoning of the property and on the amendment of the flu map. As most of my other public has already stated several of my reasons, but mainly it's moving way too fast and you don't have enough information to make a good, smart decision on this one. We don't have solid plans. We don't have word from the developer on specific information yet. So there's no reason to be voting yes at this point. The other part that really confuses me is that 7617 Terrace Avenue is an affordable house in Madison. That is what is being asked of you is to destroy it in order to build a large development. And from my understanding, what everything I've been told is that we're looking for more affordable housing in Middleton. And this one, when I looked it up, it was in good condition, bought by a family in 2019. And in 2018, there were several offers put on the house. At this point, that family there would be multiple offers to purchase by family members in that kind of house. So it's a very affordable home that what you would be voting on would be to destroy it and put up very expensive one-bedroom apartments. None of that seems to match what the comprehensive plan that I understand you've spent a lot of time working on seeks to uphold. So I am asking you as a resident of Middleton to please vote no at this point for both the rezoning of the 7617 Terrace Avenue and for amending the flu map. Thank you.
1 and 2 Terrace Avenue Development, Francisco Riojas.
Good evening. I don't know if it's possible, but I'd refer you to page 45 of the agenda packet to see an overhead view of what we're talking about. I've lived on Hillcrest Avenue, due south of the parcels involved, for about 5 years. I'm a member of the local VFW post, and I oppose both of these agenda items. First, I want to thank all the good neighbors that we have here tonight who brought this to our attention, because without them and with the speed that this proposal is moving through the city government, we might not have heard about it until the blasting started. Since I only have a few minutes to speak, each of you should have received a letter outlining our concerns in more detail earlier today, but there are a few things I'd like to say out loud. The first proposal from New Year proposed blasting the hill that we live on and destroying mature trees and green space to carve out enough flat area to place a huge apartment building that you can see in the record. My kids call that hill the mountain because it is steep and rocky. 2 weeks ago at the Planning Commission, I said a vote for this proposal was a vote to move mountains to make room for an apartment building. Now, I encourage you to walk past the Verns site. It's only about a block away. You can see the rock at the base of the hill from the street. It runs all the way up to the structure on the site. So when you look at the overhead map, it can be deceptive. It's hard to get to see how steep of a hill we're talking about and how much earth will have to be removed. All of that solid rock and more will have to be blasted and removed to make room for any new building. While you're down there, you should keep walking. Go to the skate park and the parking lot that's been talked about last week. You'll see a large retaining wall behind the skate park and the parking lot. With the original proposal from New Year, you'll see an even more imposing cliff after the excavation that will tower over the skate park. I can't tell you what it would look like for the most recent proposal because we haven't seen it yet. That's why this vote is premature. Why is the city in a hurry to vote on this when they haven't even seen the most recent proposal? I understand the comprehensive plan took time to develop, but why amend it so soon after it was finalized? Can residents rely on this plan? Now, I don't know much about real estate development, but from what I heard over the last few weeks, developer will push the limits of what's allowed to maximize profit. You'll hear them highlight that they're not asking for an exception to build less than minimum required number of parking spaces, as if doing the bare minimum should be praised. They will present renderings that do not show the scale of the hill they are proposing to destroy or how high the building will be in relation to the top of the hill. Maybe there won't be any air conditioning units on the roof. You can't tell from that rendering. They'll tell neighbors that building a smaller apartment building is not economically feasible. They will say that mixed commercial and real estate or residential space is possible on Terrace Ave, but runs the risk of having vacant storefronts, while we already have an abundance of vacant apartments in Middleton. Now, I've heard residents and commission members advocate for starter homes, condos, townhomes, and I've heard some on this council imply that they are powerless to get a developer to build another type of building because it's private property. Are you powerless? That's what your vote is for. Thank you.
Rezoning Mariner's property, Andrew Dingell. Thank you.
Hello there. My name is Andrew Dingell. I live at 1726 Aurora Street. Myself and my wife have lived there since 2018. I've got a few concerns about the development as a whole. I think the developers themselves, I think some of looking through the website and all the projects you've done is actually a full credit to you, because I think a lot of the work they've done is actually for the community and the public. I just feel like the Mariner site that is wanting to be changed to MUD. I've got certain issues with that site in particular. The Verns site, and obviously the adjustment to actually go into the parking lot, I think is actually a fairly good idea. I think the parking lot itself is a waste of space and should be utilized in some ways. But I think there's actually a bigger problem with this whole thing. I think the plan, if I'm being honest, like the planning commission and some of the zoning that was done prior is off. There's a lot of discrepancies in the map. Just looking through, obviously living at the house that I live at, I've seen this through time change, and I've noticed there has been several discrepancies that haven't been looked at or changed, and I just feel like the whole thing seems a little rushed. I think there's opportunity for the developers actually potentially to build there, but just a different way. And I actually think that you guys would be a good credit to this community. I just don't know how it's going to look. But as far as the Mariner house, obviously ourselves and Jim and Chris, I don't think we particularly want to live next to a 5-story building. Going around Madison and obviously Middleton, there's nothing that close that I've seen. And again, this is what it's all about, is trying to find the best solution to obviously problems that you all face. And I know obviously housing Middleton and elsewhere is a big issue. And I think that we can come to some sort of some resolution that's going to work for everyone. So thank you.
Public comments, agenda item 1 and 2. Name is Sarah Devjar.
Perfect. Hello, good evening. I'm Sarah Newyer with Newyer Investments. We're also the owners of 7617 Terrace Avenue. Thank you for considering our application this evening. I want to introduce myself. So I'm Sarah with Newyer, and I'm also here with my sister, who's my business partner, Ann Newyer Morrison. We are a woman-owned development company who has strong roots in the community here. We have devoted most of our professional careers to building thoughtful mixed-use projects in high quality, well-managed. I know there was a comment about the fear that there'd be people moving in and out of these apartment complexes. We've had tenants who have lived in buildings that we own and manage for over 30 years. 7617 Terrace Avenue has sold 4 times since 2015. So I understand there's this fear of instability with rentals, but that's not always the reality. We manage and we create such high quality assets that we have very little turnover. We really believe in the value of urban infill sites. We heard tonight about the importance of libraries. This is a great setting, walkable to libraries. People can walk to City Hall to be part of these public forums. We don't really believe in greenfield development. We think this is best for the environment, walkability. Some of the projects that we've done in the community that you might be familiar with are 1700 Monroe Street. That is close to Trader Joe's. The building has, an array of great retail tenants. One is a local nonprofit, Monroe Street Arts Center. We also recently completed Ella Apartments on East Washington Avenue that you might have seen has a large mural on the East Washington Avenue side of it, but then has a completely different scale on the North Lawn side of that project, changing the context to more of a residential feel as it touches the residential street of North Lawn. We've worked really hard on those projects, working with the neighborhood and making sure that we fill the ground level retail with local businesses. We have 3 local businesses on the ground level of Ella Apartments. All 3 of them, it's the first time they've moved into first generation retail space, and it's been life changing for all of them. I'm going to turn it over to Ann. I don't know if you have to officially call her up, but she will go on and speak a little bit more about Newyer Investments and our plans and our thoughts around the rezoning of 7617 Terrace Avenue.
Thank you. Number 1 and 2, Ann Morrison.
Thank you, council members. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you to our neighbors who are here today. And thank you also to the neighbors who wrote letters of support to the file who aren't here tonight. Again, we are here tonight because we own the former Verns auto body site. It's on the commercial end of Terrace Avenue. It's a block from the Beltline Highway. And we own the property next door, which is 7617 Terrace Avenue on your agenda tonight. And we are looking to rezone the 7617 so that the zoning for that matches the long-term plan for Verns, which is MUD, which has been in the comprehensive plan and in the previous comprehensive plan as that use, as that density for many years. We've been working with our team of architects, engineers, with city staff, with CARPC, with our Alder, and with other key stakeholders and neighbors to come up with a plan for the redevelopment of the Verns site, either as a residential or based on the feedback we're getting as a mixed-use residential and commercial project. And we're committed to continuing on that work. The initial concept in your packet was an initial concept, and we are working to evolve a new concept. And we want to assure you that we are also seeking to find an appropriate and feasible development for the site. And we're looking forward to, this is for the rezoning, but we obviously have to come back with the other plan, and that's a separate level of approval that we still have to go through, and we would go through in order. But in order to move forward with Verns, we are seeking the rezoning of our site at 7617 to MUD so that the two next door properties match in zoning. The property is not a historic property. It's a 1980s ranch house, and I would say fair condition. It is not part of the historical fabric of the neighborhood. It was built in the early 1980s, and before it was built, just like a lot of these 1980s houses right there, it was platted as City Street. It was Cayuga Street Extension. So this was never historically part of any history. It's a ranch house. We've also proposed a generous green buffer between the five-story building and the adjacent house. And in the next plan, we would continue and commit to keeping that green buffer there. We're seeking this rezoning of the property because the Verns site, developing it alone is infeasible. And this is evidenced by the fact that Verns has been in our city, Middleton, your city, in the TIF plan for redevelopment for 3 decades, since 1993. And no other development company or operating business has found a viable reuse for this former auto body shop on one of our most important blocks in downtown. According to city staff, more than 10 development companies have looked at this and passed. And so they've been unable to find a solution without incorporating this 1980s house. So we are committed to finding a path forward on it. We think that we can add high quality housing to our community. We think it's a well-documented fact, an indisputable fact, and the facts are out there that we have a huge housing shortage in Middleton and our surrounding community. That includes single-family homes, certainly, but it also includes apartments. And without that adding more housing, it's putting upward pressure on all of our housing costs. And it's adding to increased greenfield development, which is something that our company really is worried about, increased car traffic and sustainability. There is a system for amending a flu map. We're following the system. This is the next door property. We're not looking at a historic property. We hope you can support this rezoning so we can move forward with our next iteration of our plan, and that we can reuse a vacant body shop to create attractive housing in a walkable community where people want to live. Sorry, am I over? Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you for keeping time. All right, I believe that is the end of our public comments. And is there anyone else?
Okay, there's no one on Zoom.
I'm sorry?
No one on Zoom?
Oh, good question.
Anybody with their virtual hand up on Zoom asking to speak at this time? Oh, sorry, I do see one now. Sorry. lulubells@gmail.com. If you could turn your camera on and.
Just say, come on. Hello, my name is Keith Klipstein. My wife Lucianne and I own a property at 1720 Aurora Street. I like the idea of going over the parking lot and suggested that you may as well go over the skate park as well. You could enclose it so that it could be all year round, but have units above it, which would help spread out the density of the building's 71 units, so that you probably could give up on a floor and a half, something like that, but would like you to give some consideration to that, because the skate park, as popular as it was once, is still probably somewhat, but is still something that could be left in place. Anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Approval of consent agenda as recommended to council by committee, commission, board, including the common council minutes of March 19th, the audit of bills to be paid, task order with Verns Surveying and Engineering for topographic surveying services, water management agreement with Carico Aquatics Resources, Inc. for Walter Bauman Aquatic Center, and amendment to intergovernmental cooperation agreement with the town of Middleton. Is there a motion?
This is Haniro. I move approval of the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Mormon, second.
Any comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to easements, temporary limited easement at Century Harbor condominiums for Lake Street and Dewey Court reconstruction. Is there a motion?
This is Haniro. I move approval of the temporary limited easement on behalf of the Public Works Committee.
Is there a second?
This is Jackson. I'll second.
Any comments? All those in favor of approving the temporary limited easement at Century Harbor condos for Lake Street and Dewey Court reconstruction, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to miscellaneous. Review results of the 2024 general obligation note sale and pricing. Going to assume that Bill would like to speak for a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, we have Brad Vigud from Baird attending on Zoom, and he's going to provide a brief update.
Great, thanks.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yes, we were in the market yesterday with the city's notes, and we had some very good results. We're reporting out that the final interest rate that's been locked in is 3.23%. And that, again, is on the $4 million note issue that has.
Can you adjust your audio a little bit? We're having difficulty hearing you.
Can we turn the volume
Sorry,
up?
but so that's on the final payment date of 2032. The total interest expense is more than $37,000 less than what was initially presented. And I'll pause there. I'm not sure if you're having problems hearing me, but I can certainly try to answer any questions.
Yeah, it's fine. Go on. Thank you.
Okay, that's really the extent of my report. I would just wanted to reiterate that the final pricing here came in below what was presented to the Finance Committee and ultimately approved, initially approved by Council last month.
Great. Thank you for that. Do you need any action, Bill?
No action is required. We finalized the notes pursuant to the parameters resolution that was adopted. So this is just informational and an opportunity to ask questions.
Great, thanks. Does anyone have any questions for Bill or Brad? No, thank you for your time, Brad. Thank you, Bill. All right, moving on to ordinances, first reading. Number 1 is an ordinance to amend the City of Middleton Comprehensive Plan 2023, affecting the future land use map designation for a property located at 7617 Terrace Avenue.
This is Haniro on behalf of the Plan Commission. I move approval of the first reading.
Is there a second?
This is Cole. I'll second.
Any comments?
I wonder if we could get background from staff.
We'll do that. Is staff on the online?
Mayor Kuhn, I am here on Zoom. If you can hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Okay, this is Abby Attoon, Director of Planning and Community Development. Just to provide a brief overview, the items on your agenda this evening, numbers 1 and 2 under ordinances, pertain only to the Mariner site that is at 7617 Terrace Avenue. The Mariner site is a 0.2 acre property with a single family home that was constructed in 1980. The original proposal that New Year Investments made for the Verns redevelopment project included one other parcel of land, which we're calling the Middleton site. which was the property that garnered the most concern from the surrounding neighborhood due to its depiction as Carp Sea Environmental Corridor, because it has steep slopes, and due to the wooded nature of the property. And I know, especially after hearing the comments this evening, there are still concerns in the neighborhood, but during the initial public hearing for this redevelopment project, that particular piece of property was the primary focus of concern from the neighborhood. And I want to just mention that the Middleton site is shown in the city's comprehensive plan as downtown mixed use. And so the rezoning application that was originally submitted for that piece of property would be consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. But due to the concerns that we heard during the public hearing, our staff has now proposed an alternative proposal, which kind of came up late and it hasn't fully been explored at this point by the developer. But we do appreciate their willingness to take a look at the alternative concept, which we think would have some benefits to the city, to the residents, and to the development as a whole. But it's going to take some time to look at that concept and to make its way through the city process. We are going to have a Community Development Authority meeting next week on 4/11 to further explore that concept. And we are grateful to the developers for giving us a little bit of time to look into this option, especially given the high priority nature of the Verns Auto Body Shop as a redevelopment site in the city, and also the limited amount of time left in Tax Increment District 3 to assist with any extraordinary costs associated with this site, including demolition and the potential need for soil remediation based on its long-term use as an auto body shop. And again, that's just the potential. We don't know for certain whether there's soil remediation that would be necessary. I want to mention that we get a lot of inquiries from developers looking for good sites for projects in Middleton, and that is a telephone call that we get in my department probably one time a week. And for around the last 10 years, I have been saying that this is the highest priority site in the city, the Verns Auto Body Shop site. And it's not necessarily due to the extent of blight on the property, but it's due to the land use respective to its location in an area that the city considers an extension of its downtown. And that is in the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan also has goals such as H1A that say we will support infill development, especially in downtown Middleton and in other areas well served by transit, and E9B, which says extend the downtown district northward along Parmenter Street and southward along Terrace Avenue to enhance the city core. So while this particular property, it needs an adjustment to the comprehensive plan for the Mariner site, there are other goals that could be achieved through enabling a redevelopment of the Verns site and this property. The bigger picture here is that the city has used TIF District 3 since 1993 to relocate land uses in downtown that were not appropriate, such as manufacturing facilities, dilapidated buildings, and new and used car lots, like Mid-Plains Storage, the Solly property, Easy Tile, D-Car, and Middleton Ford. And that has enabled us to create a downtown that has a vibrant mix of land uses that we have now. We would not have, for example, Hubbard Avenue Diner is an iconic use in our downtown, and it wouldn't be here if it weren't for TIF District 3. So we wouldn't have the level of retail, housing, restaurants, and the high quality streetscaping that we have if it weren't for that 1993 TIF District project plan. I view Verns as really being one of the last pieces that has been in that plan now for over 30 years. And while the plan did not originally include this 0.2 acre site that is before you this evening, I think that past experience working with several other parties who are interested but could not make the numbers work does indicate that the inclusion of additional land may be necessary to make a project viable at this location. The Plan Commission unanimously recommended rezoning this site at their last meeting. I think that it is at the discretion of the council to determine whether you feel comfortable approving a flu map amendment and a rezoning without seeing the full extent of the project. But I would say that the standard process, which is outlined in our new zoning ordinance, would allow for a property to be rezoned, and then the next step after the rezoning would be the site plan review. And site plan review is where the Plan Commission would take a look at dimensional standards, the design of the building, ingress and egress to the site, the traffic impact analysis, the stormwater management plan, and lighting and landscaping and related items. And then after site plan review, the standard next step after that would be plan review, which is an internal staff review process, ensuring that all of the contingencies of approval that were placed in the public process are met prior to permitting. So it's the council's decision whether or not to approve the flu map and rezoning prior to seeing the full site plan and getting the CDA's input on the parking lot, but it would not be atypical to rezone the property prior to the full site plan review. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Yes, Alder Haniro, and I know Alder Schaefer had his hands up, so go ahead and make your comment.
Thank you, Abby, for that summary. Just one question about the CDA. So the Plan Commission referred the alternative concept to the CDA with our endorsement, not to approve or weigh in on the change to the flu map or the zoning, correct? It was all about the parking lot because they manage the parking lot, correct?
That's correct. The CDA does not actually own the property. The property is owned by the city, but the CDA handles snow removal and maintenance of the parking lot and also has a lease arrangement with the apartment building that's across the street, Middleton Station, to lease some of the parking stalls for to serve that development.
Thank you.
Yeah, so where to start? I guess I come right out from the gate. I'm opposed to doing this now. I think it's premature. I think we've seen the development and I heard from my constituents by the many dozens, and I listened. And I think that the project as originally proposed was too big, was not right for the site, but that's not what we're really dealing with tonight. I could go over a bunch of things. I think you've all said it very well. I don't need to reiterate it. The thing is, I think we're very premature in looking at what was a clearly planned and developed flu map that the city spent years putting together. We went through the very last part of the new zoning thing, making sure that all of Terrace Avenue right up to Verns was specifically R2F, and we put that in, and it was very clear up until a couple months ago that there was no concept whatsoever that the south side of Terrace Avenue was somehow going to be something other than, two-family single-dwelling homes. So I think it's premature. I have great respect for these developers, and I think they've done a lot of work, and I'm anxious to see what revised plans might be. But I think we're really jumping the gun on doing the rezoning and changing the flu map until we know what might be coming down the path. I'm wide open to looking to lots of developments, but it seems like nobody's given me a compelling reason yet to say why we need to do this right now. I even went back and watched the Plan Commission meeting, and there was ambiguity in the Plan Commission too. I was a little surprised that they took the vote at the very end to go through with the rezoning, because there were concerns raised with where are we going? We don't have a plan yet. We've seen nothing but a chunk of blocks. So I encourage the developers to work with us. I think we can do something here, but I think this is just premature, and I'm not ready yet to vote personally to change this flu map and this zoning when we haven't seen what that block sitting on that site is going to be. So, all right, thank you.
And I respect my colleague who formerly served on the Plan Commission and his comments representing his constituents. I would say, though, on the Plan Commission, I don't think we've seen a site plan come to the Plan Commission before a change in zoning is approved. So I think we're at, I'm process oriented. We're at the right stage in the process for this. I would also note that the skate park, the parking lot, Verns, and the Middleton parcel are all mixed use downtown. So the south side of Terrace was. Verns is not mixed use downtown? Verns is, thank you.
Can I ask a clarifying? Abby, do you have a copy of that map or can you report to us?
Brian.
Or Brian? Please continue, but I just want to see the map.
Sure.
Just to make sure I'm on the right page.
So we are in the right stage of the process for something like this. South side of Terrace, as Abby indicated, is in the comprehensive plan as an extension of the downtown. We were asked to provide some reasons why I think this infill project represents a great opportunity to provide more housing in Middleton and make a dent in the 4,000 new units that we will need to develop by the year 2050. It's relatively close to a transit line. It's within walking distance of our downtown businesses, who I'm sure will appreciate the business. And at least some of the trips taken by new residents won't have to be in cars. Transit-oriented development advances our goals for environmental sustainability and combating climate change, and redevelopment will also eliminate a blighted building that has been on the city's priority list for decades, as Abby explained. The proposed new apartment building will have a mix of 46 one-bedroom apartments, 4 one-bedrooms with dens, and 16 two-bedrooms, not all efficiencies and one-bedrooms, as stated incorrectly in a recent letter to the Times Tribune. We have also heard concerns expressed about the city amending the comprehensive plan, which is a 20-year plan and was approved 4 months ago. And I appreciate that residents do seem to understand all the work that went into the original plan in 21 and the update in 2023, but it needs to be understood that the comp plan is a living document. Amendments are anticipated. We've heard quotes from the comp plan itself. I will read a quote that's in the very beginning. The last iteration of this plan was approved 15 years ago. Moving forward, the city intends to review and, as necessary, update this plan annually in order to maintain it as a living document, one that remains relevant and is consulted frequently by officials as they make decisions about how our community grows and changes. So there's nothing improper about amending the comp plan. Not changing the comp plan for 15 years was a problem. That was not a good thing to do. It was a bad thing to do. Our housing crisis is well documented by the county, the city, the Wisconsin Policy Forum, the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, and the experts at UW. The new apartments aren't planned to be affordable housing as that term is defined, but as we heard from Professor Paulson, increasing the total number of units will have the long-term effect of slowing the increases in rent prices or bending the curve, to use a phrase that we used to hear a lot at the beginning of the pandemic. Web searches for rental vacancies may provide a snapshot of what's available in a specific building or near Middleton, but that isn't representative of the big picture long-term crisis that not just us, but everybody is facing. And it's a crisis for us here in Middleton that's only going to get worse as people start to flee the coasts, migrating because of climate change. We may have some individual buildings with a fairly significant number of vacancies. I would simply observe that market rate is what the market will bear. And if there are a lot of vacancies, that is a sign that those units are priced higher than the market will bear. I care deeply about the people in the district I serve. I care deeply about this community. I think this is going to be a good development. And yes, I did I expressed regret for the Plan Commission not discussing more thoroughly why we would, at the very last minute, change several parcels from the mixed-use downtown designation to TRF. That I'm the first to admit that was done in haste without much discussion, and it was a bad decision. And actually, had we gone forward with that rezoning, the properties along that street would all be much higher value than they currently are as a result. And then finally, as for the Plan Commission's discussion, I'm not sure I know what my colleague in District 1 is referencing. I will tell you that the 5-2 vote on the flu map amendment, there was some disagreement because of the Middleton parcel and conservancy land possibly being affected. But when we heard the alternative concept proposed by our staff, the one commissioner who was in the room who had previously voted no to the flu map amendment, she was very excited, and it was a unanimous vote. And the seventh member was absent, but he was someone who supported the flu map amendment. So if you could clarify.
Yeah, if I could respond, thank you. I don't think exceedingly exciting was not how I picked it up. But there's some confusion here in my mind because we have a shift of patterns. In my 3 years on Plan Commission, no, we rarely ever rezoned something before we had some kind of at least a GIP on a fund. So if what we have and what you're saying we should rezone this because we have in fact a proposal, I stand against that proposal because I think that's the wrong proposal. So it has nothing to do with procedure. It's simply, I think, and I've heard my constituents that that's not the proposal. But now we're shifting to a new design, and that's where the confusion comes in here. And I saw that with the Plan Commission too, that we suddenly have a new concept, a new idea, a new way we're going, but we're not remotely closed. So if we're shifting from what was a sort of a GIP before to something that's now a vague concept, I think that's why we need to slow down and stop and wait until we have what is clearly going to be, it appears, a replacement for what was the thing that led to the rezoning request in the first place. So that's my opinion and my take on that. So I'm still voting no on this.
And one last clarification, we weren't at the GIP stage, we were at the concept.
I know
review
you're at
stage.
concept review.
Yeah.
We're even pre-concept.
And
with the
still
other one.
are, right.
Anybody else? Alder Wilkes?
I just have some notes that I had written down. I am with Alder Schaefer on this one. I don't think that this is the best use for this downtown parcel area, all three pieces. We had the recent presentation about the number of apartments in Middleton and the information from the desire for single family and condo units. And I don't think this is yes, we need 4,000 units, but we already have more than a lot of our surrounding communities. Besides Madison and Fitchburg, I don't think we need to bear the brunt of continuing to add more and more and more to our space. I think there's other ways that we can grow our community that we can explore into the future. I think it is my understanding that the design of Terrace Avenue itself was to be an event space. We have the event space in front of Capitol Brewery. It ties into the downtown through the connection between the apartment buildings across the in the T-wall development there. In my mind, you put up another apartment building, it becomes an alleyway. It becomes it becomes a street between two tall buildings. You lose any sort of community aspect to it. It becomes merely a residential downtown property. It lacks any sort of commercial or character. I think there's more creative uses for this space. I'm actually, when I heard about this, I was actually sort of confused because in July of 2023, we approved a liquor license for the Verns property. Somebody owned it and intended to open it as a bar. They got the liquor license, nothing came of it. Did the city reach out to them to let them know about the TIF financing? Did you buy the property from them?
They're fine. They could not make the financing work. They never purchased the property.
Okay, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
That was that
We reached
owner.
out to them to see if they would want to be a tenant in a new space there, and they still couldn't.
I think that's a cool, I think it's kind of a funky building. A bar there would have been kind of cool. It would have been a different feel for downtown Middleton. We were really excited when it came before license and ordinances. I was really excited to approve that license. Sad to hear that that couldn't come through. I think that would have been a great use of that space to continue using Terrace Avenue as a community space, expand it from Capital Brewery over to there. I think if anybody has ability to invest in that, I think that would be really cool. Moving on from that, we already have a number of parcels already designated for infill along University Avenue. Let's see what happens with development before we start approving new zoning and changing. We're trying to build up a lot of different areas really quickly. We need to slow our roll. Like this, we don't have a need for this right now. I don't think it's justified that we do it this quickly. Lastly, to speak to the comprehensive plan amendment. I just this afternoon rewatched our meeting from November when we voted on the changes to the flu map. I asked at that time, how often does the comprehensive plan and the flu map get amended? And exactly what Alder Hanairo said was quoted. It is a living document. It gets reviewed annually, not every 4 months. This should be something that lives for a little bit so everybody understands what the view of the city is. We can review it again in a year, next November, next December, next January, when we've had some time to sit with it and see what's happening in our community. If we're going to be looking at it every 4 months, nothing is going to have an opportunity to develop. The mayor spoke last week or 2 weeks ago about the desire to get behind the pipeline. She doesn't want to be on the planning commission because that's already the stuff that's coming through. Well, if we're continually running and pacing and trying to change things every 4 months, none of that stuff has time to come to fruition. We need to stop being so reactionary, give it time to see what develops, and then move accordingly.
I want one question for Alder Wilkes, and I mean this with all love. I would love, you said something about there are other ways to grow our community, and I'm not challenging you at all. I mean this sincerely. I want new ideas. We all don't want more apartments, but we all need more housing.
And there are ways that we can work with in Dane County to look into those. I have ideas we can talk about. I'm not on council in 2 weeks. But I think that there's lots of opportunity for the city to look to new development.
Thanks. I just wanted to say, before the next one, I had asked for the map to be shown, and I asked the city administrator just to explain the colors, just to make sure we're all on the same page, because I've seen it so many times for this parcel. I think I'm starting to confuse everything. So can you help us and the public who are watching to walk through which one's Verns?
Yes. So this is Verns, where my pointer is, which is currently zoned MUD, and the flu map shows downtown mixed use.
I think what everybody said, so we're all on the same page on that. Okay.
Yes, and MUD was a conversion from the old zoning ordinance, which had a district called B4 that was the downtown business district. That is a district that allows 5 stories by right or 60 feet in height. And the Verns site has been zoned B4 probably for decades and decades. I wouldn't be surprised if it was zoned that way for 30 plus years. So that's been in the plans for a long time. What is on the agenda this evening is the property to the east, the Mariner site, and that site is zoned TRF, or 2-family residential flat. So what is before you this evening is a request to change not only the future land use map for this property, but the zoning. And the reason that the flu map is on the agenda, it's because the zoning needs to be consistent, and we have an application for rezoning this property. Now, the property that is also included in the proposal is this site, to the south of Verns, which is called the Middleton site. And that property is zoned, whoops. The environmental corridor overlay is coming up, so I can't click on this and show you, but this property is zoned TRF, two-family residential, but the long-term plan for this property shows downtown mixed use. So the correlation for downtown mixed use in zoning is the MUD district. But this is the piece of property where we had a lot of concerns, especially about changing the zoning for this property. And so that's why our staff is proposing that we take a look instead at this property, which the city owns, and that's where the surface parking lot is.
And that parking lot, is that zoning also the MUD?
Yes, the zoning for the parking lot, the skate park, those are MUD.
Abby, are they still part of the environmental corridor?
Yes, they are. And we have a memo from CARPC regarding that. So the crosshatched line is showing where the environmental corridor exists in this area. And what CARPC has told us is that this property here, which is a single family home that is accessed off of Aurora Street, this property, which is the Middleton site, and the properties that the city has already developed for parking and for the skate park, these wouldn't really necessarily meet the current criteria for an environmental corridor. And if the city wished to remove these from the environmental corridor, that would be considered a minor adjustment. The lands back here are protected lands that are city owned, park and conservancy lands, and these do meet the criteria for being in the CARPC environmental corridor.
Okay, thank you for that. Did you have a clarifying question?
This one's the Middleton?
No, that's the,
Where's
that's
Middleton?
Middleton's the green.
There. Okay.
And then this is a private
Got it.
house.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
So, Alder Lorman?
And the Middleton is owned currently by the developer.
The Middleton is under option for purchase by the developer. I believe it's still owned by Dennis Middleton, and it's a two-family zoned property that has never been developed. So there are a lot of trees on the property, and it's on a steep slope, but it does have permissive zoning in place to build a two-family property here. And it also has an access easement so that there is a driveway that comes off of Aurora Street that serves the single family home here and extends to this property where there's a single family home. And then he maintained an access easement so that he could build a two-family building back here.
Good question. Thank you for that. And everybody's had great comments tonight. I really appreciate especially the dialogue that we're having. Alder Henera?
Just a couple of comments. The 4,000 units that Professor Paulson told us about, those are for Middleton. Those aren't for Dane County. Those are just for Middleton. So I just want to make sure that was clear. University Avenue does have two new developments in the works. One is the Castle Rock, and the other one, I forget the name of the building, but they're both on the north side of University. So there is infill development going on, and actually looking at some of the parcels, I don't know how much more we're expecting in the near term. And then finally, for those who are reluctant to update the flu map at this time, I just would note that the school district is going to be coming to council requesting an update to the flu map and the zoning in connection with the softball and baseball fields. So consistency in philosophy, I think, is important.
Mr. Jackson?
In hearing from the constituents, from Alder Schaefer and Alder Wilkes. I definitely want to come out and say I'm going to be opposed to this too. Two things that struck that was, like Alder Wilkes said, I just think we're moving too fast. We need to pump the brakes for a second. I am very concerned about where our future is going in Middleton, how fast we're moving. The second thing is, I heard the constituents say something that seems very powerful to me. I ran on a platform, and part of my platform was public safety, things of that nature. And the constituents did express the trust that we're losing from our constituents, because we were put here not for us, but for them, represent them. That's why they voted us in office. This is about representing them. I remember we had a meeting, and Alder Loman himself has said, I'm here from my constituents. That's where I'm here from. I think at that time it was brought up, well, which one of your constituents, because this is not your district, his district, is saying something. Well, I've received over 20 emails from my district concerning this property. Many of you know I'm the general manager of Chili's, and several of your constituents have came to my restaurant and have, hey, ain't you the Alder? What are you guys doing down there in Middleton? So people are concerned, and we are definitely losing the trust of the people in Middleton, how we're moving. So I definitely think that we need to sit back and rethink what we're doing and look at how this is going to look in the future.
Thank you for that, Alder Jackson. We all work for our constituents, but we work for everyone in Middleton as well. Not just people who are first ones to get here. We want to create a community that is welcoming to others, that allows people to move here if they want to be part of the Good Neighbor City. Like I said earlier, I would love an alternative to apartments. But we owe people who want to live here some consideration as well. I understand the passion that neighbors are bringing, and we need to consider the whole arc of the story. So that's my comment for now. Alder Crow.
And again, Alder Nelson, I understand that need to see kind of the whole city, and I in District 8, there's not a lot of development going on there other than in Bishop's Bay, in that area. So a lot of times I get it when constituents aren't happy with what's going on in a particular area, and that we do need to look at kind of big picture as well as what's best for the city. I went to vote yesterday, and my voting place is over on South Avenue, way, way away from my house. But I went at my lunchtime, and after I voted, I went over and drove down Terrace Avenue, and I'm very familiar with that area. You know, I used to live in District 1, so I'm familiar with that area. And I guess I'm having issues with another apartment building there, kind of, as I think Alder Wilkes said, kind of that alley, turning it into an alley with big buildings on both sides of Terrace Avenue. I have concerns about where we draw the line, I guess, as to what's downtown, what's not downtown. And Terrace Avenue is kind of unique in that. How does it connect with downtown? How do we maintain kind of that character of mixed use downtown? alongside all those older buildings, and including Little Red Preschool, which is obviously a commercial site, but it's maintained that historic look of the building. I spent Friday in Chicago, and I love Chicago. I love the tall buildings. I love walking down a street where you've got these huge buildings on either side of you. I'm not sure that's Middleton though. So I'm leaning toward not approving this at this point. I would love to see Verns develop somehow. It doesn't fit there anymore. So I would love to see some sort of creative development there, but again, I'm not sure I'm ready to see it. And I realize that the what we're voting on is not Verns.
Right.
But I guess I'm not ready to move on this yet to change that until we get a better idea of what might go there.
Okay, so there's a lot that you have brought forth. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, I appreciate Alder Crow's comments about what is the downtown line, but I am really reflecting on part of the comprehensive plan is the vision to kind of figure out how we expand downtown, because part of the solution are sites like this that are infill to improve density where there is walkability and transit lines. And I've said this before, it is in alignment with all kinds of planning best practices that we're seeing sweep the nation and are important to addressing the housing crisis. I think, and to Alder Hanairo's point about we are on the precipice of some mass migrations in the United States. And if we're already short housing, it's just going to get worse. And I think that we do need to be reflective of that comprehensive plan look to expand what is downtown and where we can center density, because that is a big mistake that happened in city planning across this country for decades, where we didn't look to infill and density in downtown corridors in medium-sized cities, smaller sized cities, things like that. And that's how we ended up with a massive amount of sprawl. And this is a location that would meet all of those sustainable boxes for this city. So that's why I'm in support of this rezoning of the one parcel next to Verns.
Thank you for those comments. Any other comments? I don't want to make sure I don't miss anyone.
Madam Mayor, if I could say one thing that, and I commend you on what you said. When I moved to Middleton, because it was a good neighborhood city. It was a neighborhood city. Being a born and raised New Yorker, and he brought up Chicago. I've been in New York. I lived in a building that was 25 stories high. You know, I've been around all of that. And I agree with Alder Crow. What we're doing in Middleton just don't fit. It don't fit. Why can't we look into townhomes or single family homes? Why has this got to be big development buildings? I just don't see Middleton like that. I don't see the future of Middleton like that. It's a good neighborhood city. It's neighborly, and I understand density and filling in spots, but I just don't think that we're a Chicago or we're a New York that we got to be building like that.
Alder Hanaira?
Well, I lived in Chicago, and I mean, I appreciate your concerns, but I don't see Middleton's downtown ever having 25-story buildings, at least not in our lifetimes. I agree that we need to have a mix of housing. I'm on the Workforce Housing Committee, working very hard with my colleagues to try to identify ways that we can use the TIF final year increment for TID 3 to use that to incentivize the construction of condominiums and of maybe even small homes, developments of small homes. The Village of Sheboygan Falls did something like this in conjunction with 5 of their biggest employers who each donated $2 million to the effort because they need workers and they want them to be able to live in Sheboygan County, and right now they can't. I would just ask my colleagues to think about the map of Middleton and then think about where do we have enough land to build significant new housing developments involving houses. I will tell you where 2 of those locations are, District 6 on former farmland. I appreciate that Red Tail Ridge is going in. I think it's going to be a great addition to the city. I love Bell Farm. We all know it's this eco-agrotopia. I'm looking forward to that project going forward. But the fact is, if we are going to have more developments like this, it means sprawling into farmland and it means more cars. When we were debating the Allen Boulevard site, I think it was Alder Cole pointed out, the traffic concern for building on that site wouldn't go away if we moved those units, however many there might have been, move them further north. All those cars are still going to come down Allen Boulevard on their way to Madison. So I think serving on the Plan Commission, serving on this council, attending meetings and interacting with my colleagues from other municipalities, I have come to appreciate the very big picture vision that Middleton has and that we need to keep in mind. I agree, we are a city of neighborhoods, but we are also a city. We are not a village. We're not a town. And cities grow. If they don't grow, they die. And I feel strongly that this is a good use of the Verns site. I would like to see what the developer can come back with in terms of a concept that uses maybe even the full parking lot, maybe even the skate park. I hadn't thought about putting that underground. Maybe the developer can figure out a way to turn the Mariner parcel into the parkland dedication that is required for developments such as this. I'm going to vote in favor of this, and I would urge my colleagues to do so as well. That's all I have to say, Mayor.
Yeah, I sort of sense this discussion devolving into all or nothing. I don't want to make clear from my standpoint, it's not an all or nothing. I heard from my constituents and some of them see that it's not that we should do nothing with Verns. Is this the only thing we could do with Verns? And is this alone the thing? And if we vote this down, have we destroyed any sense? I want to see some development in there. I want to see some of this go forward. I want to see it go in a way where we look at this as a transitional zone and it's a balance between the downtown and the neighborhoods that have been there for 30, 40 years. And I think we can accommodate both of those. So just so clear, my vote for no is not that I want nothing to happen here. It's that I think this is a little too much for right here, for right now. And we can bring us back. A now vote or no vote now doesn't mean we can't vote yes later in the future when something comes along. That's it.
I'd like to ask Abby a question if you're still on, Abby.
Yes, I am here.
I'd like to ask you about townhomes and condos and why is it that it's hard to have developers build townhomes and condos?
Well, condos are very, very difficult to finance right now, and that has been the case since just after the Great Recession. There were very strict lending requirements that were put in place. It's federal regulation. Since 2009, we have not had any standard condos that have been proposed in the city. We ask/beg every developer who comes in and is interested in doing a project in Middleton to consider condos, because we know there is a lot of demand in the community and that they can provide a lower cost entry point housing option for people to be able to own a unit. But it's that developers cannot get financing to build them. There are really strict requirements around the number of units that have to be pre-sold in order just to get a loan, and it really extends the length of time that it takes to get financing in place and to construct a project to the point where it's just not viable with all of the other challenges in today's markets, such as high construction costs and high interest rates. So it's not just a problem in Middleton, it's a national problem. It's a huge challenge to solve, and I don't think that we're going to be able to solve it without providing some incentives, creative financing options, or something where the city would need to step up, possibly through the affordable housing extension, as Alder Hanairo had previously mentioned.
And then if I could, I'd like to ask the developers if there's a minimum number of units that are the reason that you have to do to make this a feasible project. I'm sure you have to work that out before you decide.
The microphone, please.
That's a hard question to answer. So every time that we look at a different scheme, and we've looked at it a bunch of different ways, we looked at it just Verns, we looked at Verns Mariner, Verns Middleton, Middleton Mariner, we have to invest in new architectural, new engineering, design a whole new building, get a contractor to reprice it, and then call the banks and say, and what are the rates today? And what is your debt coverage ratio that you're looking at today? And what is your debt constant? And are you even lending on multifamily right now? And so each iteration is kind of an iterative process. So like the answer that I give you on the last concept that we had Middleton, Mariner, Verns, and we got it to work, barely. You'd be better off investing in the stock market than in that building right now. Of course, the stock market might not always be so great, but it's not a super lucrative project right now. Looking at the alternative concept, which was promoted, which would be Mariner, Verns, and the skate park parking lot, is a more efficient building layout and is something that we think we can work, but we again have to invest, hire architects again, have them re-go through the process, and they work hourly, have them attend these meetings where they sit through a couple hours of, similar testimony. And so it is expensive. So I don't know the answer. We had 70 units before. I think we're getting mixed signals. Middleton needs housing. We think it does. We don't want it too big. Some of the buildings that are being proposed are much bigger than 70 units. I mean, much bigger than this at this site and much denser than what we're proposing here. We thought this was modest. We understand that people disagree, so we're trying to work that out. So I would say 70 barely worked. We don't know where we'll come up when we redesign, but we would try to make something feasible and beautiful and historic feeling, because that's a big part of what we do. And if you look at the Tobacco Loft project, Lincoln School, Monroe Street, those are all in a very classic vernacular that we think could fit into this neighborhood nicely. So
thank you.
I want to say to the group, to the alders who are talking about they don't want to see Chicago or New York, that they don't want to see tall buildings on Terrace Avenue. The only thing I want to remind you is, as Abby was showing us the map, the Verns Auto Body Shop was marked for 5 stories, if I remember correctly, for 30 years. So if you're animus to 5 stories there, I will want you to think about that because that could have been brought up long before this project. And that's not to tell you how to vote, but that was marked for 5 stories and the parking lot too. Tonight we are talking about the property next to Verns, not if it's going to be 5 stories. And I think this is my best understanding, and I'm looking to the city administrator to make sure I'm talking about this correctly, because it's more just changing the flu map designation for a property located at 7617 Terrace Avenue, which is currently a 2-story house, and they're looking to make it mixed-use development.
That's correct. That's the request that's got the first reading of the ordinance right now.
Okay. That is the vote. I know we are all very passionate. I appreciate that. I think that's what your president said. We appreciate your passion and being brought forth. And I'm glad to hear that in such a debate. With that, I'm going to ask for the vote. With the motion was Alder Hanairo, seconded by Alder Cole. All those in favor?
Madam Chair, may we do a roll call vote?
I think that's wise. Can you assist?
Schaefer,
No.
Wilkus,
No.
Cole,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Jackson,
No.
Hanairo,
Aye.
Mormon,
No.
Cole, sorry, Crow.
No.
Madam Chair, I changed my vote to no.
Madam Chair, I changed my vote to no.
All right, motion does not pass. It fails at 7-1. Is there another motion?
So, Madam Chair, yes, the motion that was on the table of the ordinance has failed on a vote of 1-7. So that item is dispensed with at this moment. Then the next item you'd go to on agenda number 2, that would be the ordinance to rezone. That would be the next item.
Okay, thank you. An ordinance to rezone 7617 Terrace Avenue to downtown mixed use MUD. Is there a motion?
This is Hanairo. I move that we refer this back to the Plan Commission.
Is there a second?
This is Nelson. I'll second.
Any comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of referring the ordinance to rezone 7617 Terrace Avenue to downtown mixed use MUD back to the Plan Commission, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes 7-1. Is that accurate? Thank you. Moving on to number 3, an ordinance to consolidate the Water Resources Management Commission and the Stormwater Utility Board. Is there a motion?
May I move that we suspend the rules and make this the second reading?
Is there a second?
This is Cole. I'll second.
Any comments
Do we have to do a roll call for that?
for the
For the,
You have to
yeah,
do a vote.
first?
yeah.
All those in favor of suspending the rules, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. So this is the suspension of the rules, so a second reading, or the equivalent of a second reading. Is there a motion?
I move approval. Sorry, I lost track of the agenda.
Is there a second?
This is Jackson. I'll second.
Any comments?
Madam Mayor? Excuse me, if I may, I think we may need to determine the effective date that this would take place if approved. And in speaking with Eric Sorensen, who staffs the committee, I believe that there is a plan for a meeting to take place on the 17th of April. And he was just wanted to raise the question of what the composition would be for that meeting and when this would be effective.
May I ask, did he have any preference for that meeting?
I think his preference would be to keep the current structure for that meeting and have the change be effective in May.
And that's what I heard too. Okay. Thank you for clarifying. Do we need to note that?
I'll make
in
a motion to amend the main motion to add May 1st as the effective date, May 1st, 2024.
And this is Cole. I'll second.
And we're going to vote on the amendment first. Is that accurate? Okay. Any comments to the amendment? Hearing none, we are just voting on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment adding the date of May, effective May 1st, 2024, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Moving back to the main, the ordinance to consolidate the Water Resources Management Commission and Stormwater Utility Board with an effective date of May 1st, 2024. Any comments?
I just have a question or a comment and a question. So if the Parks, Recreation and Forestry Commission and the CLC merge, we would need to amend this to change 2.051C.
Right, we'll have to come back and
Yeah.
and fix that. And just another clarification too, the draft that you see in your packet,
Yeah.
at least on that first page, is really showing you changes from the last draft. Because this is a total recreate of 2.05, the actual final document that I'll have for the mayor sign won't show those red lines.
Yeah.
That'll all be shown, because that's all being recreated, not an amendment of an existing ordinance.
Okay. And do we have any word on when the PRFC and the CLC might forward their recommendation?
There she is.
Oh, hi there. What?
It's because he stood up.
I know I was standing up not for this, but okay. So CLC did review the cow questions, and then and so did PRFC, and the decision that they both made, or the PRFC was in favor of combining, and CLC was not looking at combining. So that was where it landed currently, but having that discussion further, I'm not sure what direction I was going to follow up with Brian, so.
Yeah, and it's off agenda topic, so
Yeah.
just good to put it
Just
back
curious.
on there. Thank you. That was good. All right. All right. All those in favor of approving the ordinance to consolidate the Water Resources Management Commission and the Stormwater Utility Board, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Do we need to note that Alder Jackson was not in the room at the time?
Yeah, I didn't realize he had left. I know he must have just done it while I was talking.
7.
Okay, yes, 7-0. Is that a good way to put it? Unanimous. And we're with one absent. Moving on to ordinances, second reading. And I think he was planning to Zoom call it in, but maybe once he gets to where he's going. He had to finish up.
It's right here.
Oh, he's back. My apologies. I thought you were in transit. My apologies. All right. Ordinances, second reading. Ordinance to revise section 2.061 of the Middleton Municipal Code to permit the mayor to choose whether to sit on plan commission or make appointment. Is there a motion?
This is Cole. I will move approval.
This is Jackson. I'll second.
Any comments? Alder Schaefer?
Yeah, I was not here at the first vote, but I think the mayor is a very important person. I think you need to be on a committee. And I know it's a lot of work, but I've spent 3 years on that committee. And it's important as this committee in so many ways. I just think that your voice as an elected official is extremely important. So I can't really support this. So I think you need to be there.
Alder Cole?
I have a clarifying question that didn't capture the past amendment to change the term limits of the designee that we
That's
passed
not
at the
in,
last.
yeah, it's in C there. That last,
Oh, you're right.
second
Okay,
half of the
sorry.
paragraph.
Yep.
That's where that is.
Where is that?
Does that suffice your?
Yeah, it's page 81, so.
Okay, great, thank you. It can be tough, yes. I think I saw 2 hands, Alder
Nope.
Crow and then Panira. And me.
Thank you. That was added last meeting. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Brian.
And And I had voted against this previously without really commenting. So I'm going to add my comments now. I tended to agree with most of what Alder Wokus had said, and that's why I voted no on it. And for the same reasons, I'll probably vote also that I was in agreement with Alder Wokus for most of what she said. The one exception being some of her comments, I think, at the time were that it appeared that the mayor was trying to move away from controversial things, which I don't think is true. But on the whole, I think that and again, same things that Alder Schaefer just said, that I think it's important that the mayor's on this committee too. So that's why I'm going to vote no on this one.
Thank you for that. Alder Henaro?
I voted yes last time. I'm going to vote yes again. And I think as long as the mayor has an email address and a phone, she will not be able to hide, not that she would, but she will not be able to avoid controversial conversations at least.
Keep getting a busy signal.
This public record.
I had two suggestions. The simple one is, can we replace his or her with their? It's a very common usage now. So, and not just here, at some point, I think maybe when we're populating Unicode with the ordinances, we can replace his or her with their. And then also section, the wording, I think, could be improved in how constituted. Brian, I don't know if you got the email I sent with the Fitchburg. Fitchburg is one of our peer cities that does not require the mayor to be on the plan commission. And Fitchburg says the plan commission shall consist of the mayor or mayor's designee. And then they go on. And so I think the way it's worded, the mayor may appoint him or herself to the commission. The mayor shall also choose the presiding officer. That doesn't even belong in this section because we talk about presiding officer elsewhere. But I think it would be cleaner if we just said, Plan Commission shall consist of the mayor or mayor's designee, an alderperson, the chair of the PRFC board, and 4 citizens. Period. Citizen members shall be persons of recognized experience and qualifications.
You indicated you had that written.
I sent that to you and Brian, because he has the screen. It's just a tightening up of the language.
And so okay, I see that there now. And that would replace
Everything after, it would replace everything except the final sentence, citizen members shall be persons under how constituted.
Okay.
Can I make a?
And then where would we, where else are we addressing though, the
presiding officer? That's number 3.
Choose, yeah, that isn't, okay, I see that.
I just feel like it should be addressed in one place, not 2. So that's 3 separate things. 1, his or her change to their. 2, emulate Fitchburg. And 3, only mention the presiding officer once.
Yeah, there's a couple places I think where we use, we have himself and herself, and then probably, but I assume the motion would be to
just update them
throughout that, wherever it's him or her, himself, herself.
Right.
Change that. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Back to what you were just talking about, could we replace the word citizens with residents?
Yes, I support that.
That was
well,
that was something that former city administrator Davis suggested we start doing, because some people might be in the process of becoming a citizen and they could serve because they live here.
I gotta see it. It seems that we use that term though elsewhere. I'm not sure. It might even
So
be.
it's all over. And I agree wholeheartedly with the suggestion for the same reason. I just feel like it's
Now, might I suggest if that's a concern and it's all over, that maybe we leave this here and then go back and change, because I'm not sure
fair enough.
where that fits now unless we are also making the other changes. I'd like to be able to see where else we're using that.
Fair enough.
But
My other question is, I'm not usually this suspicious, but I'm wondering if the designee could be someone from the council. Say, for example, in the future, there's some other mayor who has buddies. I don't know how this could work, but could it be construed in a bad way?
Are you thinking, like, if I was to have, if you guys voted on an alder as the plan commission?
Like, so then if you didn't attend, then it would be 2 alders.
Do you not want that? Is that what you're trying to?
I'm trying to say,
I'm okay
like,
either way. I hadn't thought of doing it, but that.
it sounds like you can appoint anybody.
the way this is written, the mayor can appoint anybody who is a
Yeah, like
adult resident.
If you have an
Bucky
alder and a
Badger.
mayor, you've already got it
That's
almost
Bucky Badger.
2 alders in.
Yes, is in fact an adult resident of the city of Middleton. The mayor could appoint Bucky.
Does it say that someone has to be a resident of Middleton?
Well,
Because I don't think it
there's
does.
not in this, in our other rules about who can serve on committees back when
Okay,
we did that.
cool,
Those are
okay.
those rules.
Cool.
There's the only exception being where the ordinance calls for specific expertise.
Yeah, right.
Those don't necessarily have to be, there needs to be an effort to find a resident, but if it doesn't work, you can appoint those persons with expertise from outside the city.
Just a question.
I enjoy all of these ideas, and I could see where that concern might be there, because if the council
I
currently
don't have an
votes in-
example.
No, it's okay, but I'm thinking through your thought, and I see where there would be maybe some need for guardrails. Maybe that's something we think about in the future.
Right.
Because if you as a body, the council as a body and you as president are electing someone for plan commission, possibly to support the city vision and the comprehensive plan, or to, if I was on it, to have someone who that gives balance. But then I am putting someone else on there, although if they're my designee, then or a future mayor's designee, hopefully it would be someone who would do the good of the city. And maybe that's where a future guardrail could be a discussion pieces that that would be there, but I can't think of what that'd be. So maybe that would be something to think about. Okay.
Mayor,
So, yeah.
if I can, City of Madison, 1/3 of the members on the 9-member plan commission are alders. And the mayor has the option of serving or appointing a designee. So if the mayor and 3 alders are on, that's 4 out of the 9 members are elected officials, which I thought was interesting. So I can see potential value in having your designee be a member of the council.
If I may, that would address some of the transparency and concern that I would have as far as the trust, what we heard tonight, where I think there's a lack of trust in a lot of the decision-making processes going on right now. And I think that might help.
If the designee is an alder.
I still think that the mayor should serve on it exactly for that reason as well, just for transparency and for representation of that elected office, whether it be our current mayor or whatever mayor serves in that position. I think it's important in the city this size currently to have that, but
I want to say I do concur with what you said. I think that that would bring the trust back if it was one of the alders, because just like Alder Hanaro said, we know the mayor's number. So one of the alders would have the mayor ear and the mayor would have one of the alders ear. So I think the trust of people were like, well, I think they're talking to the mayor. So, you know, she would still have input.
I concur with Mr. Jackson.
Okay. Any other comments?
Well, I will make my motion to amend the wording in the ordinance to replace the first 1, 2, 3, 4 sentences of paragraph 1, how constituted, with the wording similar to Fitchburg. The Plan Commission shall consist of the mayor or mayor's designee, an alderperson, the chair of the PRFC board, and 4 citizens. And I also include in my amendment, changing his or her to there throughout this section. That's my amendment.
Let's see, so Alder.
I need a second.
Oh, I need a second. You're right.
This is Jackson. I'll second that.
Can you read this again?
Oh.
As
Sure. So,
clarified?
so see the sentence that starts citizen members shall be persons.
Yeah.
Okay, everything above there would be replaced by, the Plan Commission shall consist of the mayor or mayor's designee, an alderperson, the chair of the PRFC board, and 4 citizens.
Okay. But that has nothing to do with the mayor's designee. being
Right,
alderperson.
this is just the motion I'm making. Someone else can make that motion if they want.
Question,
Can you do that as an amendment?
That's an amendment to the main motion of approving the ordinance.
So my question was then, we have to first vote
Best,
on your amendment and then introduce a second one.
yeah,
Okay,
just point of information, best practice would be to address the amendment that's on the floor, and then another amendment can be proposed to further amend the ordinance. You can amend an amendment, but as we learned in our discussion with extension, you get, after about 2 amendments.
Then if we approve the first one, not the second one.
Correct. So yeah, it's best practice to address the amendment that's on the table right now, or on the floor right now.
First one is the nature of it. It's just
Right. So my amendment, the first amendment to the main motion, is not changing the nature of the designee. It's just changing the wording to be a little tighter and replacing his or her with their.
Any other comments? All those in favor of approving the ordinance to revise section 2.06 of the Middleton Municipal Code to permit the mayor to choose whether to sit on the Plan Commission or make appointment of the amendments, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
I think that was 5-3.
Yeah.
Okay. Motion passes.
I move that we amend the amendment,
Amend the amended main motion.
the amended main motions to revise the words mayor or their designee, or to add the word alder before the word designee. Does that make sense? The mayor
If I-
or his,
If I may
Or
make a
their-
friendly suggestion,
yeah, please.
I think I would add a sentence after the how constituted, I would add a sentence. If I understand where your motion is going, I would add a sentence that says the mayor's designee shall be a member of the common council.
I'll take it.
Well, think through that. I mean, it seems to me that the details of who the mayoral designee have to be are addressed in the subsection C that number 2 is creating.
I see.
All right, so
So just trying to read. The mayor shall. If it has to be an alder, I don't think subject, I gotta double check and see what subsection
Take it all to 2C and make it
2.03C.
one
Well, yeah, I think you could basically say appoint another,
Instead of someone,
an alder person in their
serve
place.
in their place.
This appointment, the next sentence, I think still makes sense to keep.
and then.
Well, and I wonder if in that case we would just go, because we have default language whereby I gotta go back, it's somewhere where I believe in some default language whereby alders basically just are an annual appointment. Let me just go back and see if
Well,
my memory serves.
no, you're right. But what about just leaving it the way it is? Changing appoint someone, change it to appoint an alder person to serve in their place. And then take out, I think it makes sense to take out the last sentence. The same person may, however, be reappointed after commencement of a new mayoral term. That never seemed to be necessary anyway.
Okay, yeah, it is in. So maybe what we do is 2.035.
Can I ask if the reason, can I ask that, is your goal to put more alders on plan commission because you feel like the plan commission doesn't listen?
That's not my reason
It's okay.
for adding this. My reason for adding this is in the past, under another mayor, we had a commission that brought an outsider in who was only interested in taking everything down. And I don't want.
Was that the mayor's designate?
Yep.
Okay.
And I don't want that situation to come up again.
So can I ask, are there other commissions where there's a mayor's designate?
Yeah, as I sit here, I don't know, I think we've heard reference to a couple, others at least that have that option. I don't, as I sit here, I don't know if.
Public safety comes to mind.
Oh, on our committees.
Right.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is that to my recall, they don't put an alder in the mayor's designate.
No, I don't, this would be the only place where a mayoral designee would have to be an alder.
So the reason I'm bringing this up is that if you all feel like there should be 2 alders, are you trying to fix a problem that might happen? Because this might happen, either me or future person, or are you trying to get more representation? Because what I heard from people is that you wanted to be more like Madison. Not specifically, but have more alders on there. I think that's a different issue. And the reason I say that is, and you'll have to help me, is it state statute that we have to have 7 people on it, or is that flexible to our?
Well, that can be, 7 is the presumptive number, but I believe we can be flexible in that number.
Right, that's why Madison has 9, because the last sentence of that section of the statute indicates that the council can come up with its own plan commission concept.
And the reason that I'm thinking that is, if you're trying to get another person from council, maybe to better represent the city, is this the vehicle, or is it to expand the plan commission? And I say that in all honesty, because right now you have the power to vote in your 1 alder. think about what the outcome is that you want, because I don't know how Madison does it, but if there's, you said 3?
There are 3 alders and the mayor's designee. I don't know if it says that person cannot be an alder, but I know the mayor's designee right now is not an alder person.
So they have 3 alders on their plan commission, and in our world, it's voted by the council. It's not assigned by the mayor. So if you feel like the plan commission isn't listening, do you want me to be putting that person on? Or do you want to add somebody to the 7-member body and consider that ability? Think about it before you jump to an answer.
Sure. The horse has already lost the barn, but the reason I wanted you on it is because you represent the whole city. We've seen in different discussions, different alders represent the area, and they may be in conflict with some other area of the city. And you're the only person who's elected who is responsible for speaking for the entire city. And that's why, to me, it was always critical having the mayor on there. Now, having more alderpersons helps spread that out, but it doesn't fix what, to me, is the issue, is that the elected representative who represents the entire city, not just a district. So wherever this goes, it's not gonna go with me because I still think that you should have been there.
Well, I do appreciate that perspective. And since you weren't here the last time, I'm gonna help remind you and the public who are listening that part of the reason that I was interested in having this designate is to allow the pipeline to have more things in it than the current pipeline. And I say that because right now we see apartment after apartment after apartment. And tonight in public comments, they said, where does it stop?
Yeah.
Well, if we're never putting housing into that pipeline, Plan Commission is only looking at apartments, and apartments aren't inherently bad. Tall buildings are not inherently bad, but if that's the only thing we're looking at, it looks like that's all we do is approve apartments. And at some point, we have to change something. And I'm glad that people are asking, why are you doing this? I know that it's not always easy, and we all have our assumptions. And that's normal. That's part of this process. But if we are not thinking about this in that holistic approach, then we can't get those things moving forward. And one of the things when Alder Nelson asked me last week or 2 weeks ago, she asked me a question like, what is this reasoning? And I talked about it. One of the things I said was, if we get everything in the pipeline moving in that vision of that back and forth, maybe we do go into some farmland with some houses. We're seeing that on the north side right now. But we still have to do some infill, and we want to do some infill of houses and townhouses and condos as well. But what's in the pipeline right now is what's in the pipeline. But if we get that healthy mix, which apartments will still be there down the road, then it's a designate. I can walk back into that step. So let's say after 1 year, I say it's hitting that goal of where we want to be. We did the TIF audit. We did the housing survey just got released. These are very big projects, as well as having done the zoning in the last year, which there's still things to be fixed. We're starting to find them left and right. But taking that time to see that long-term picture so that we can get right back into those everyday things that are coming through the pipeline. And that's my goal, is to have really a 1 to 2 year opportunity to fill that pipeline. It is not to walk away permanently. It is a temporary thing in my mind.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that clarity, but so I would still then say the alternative to me would still be have an elected person in that position. Could be a designee, but I think we need more elected representatives on that committee.
And the one thing I would remind you is are you saying that one spot, or I would like to elect this on there? Because you can add a body. I don't know if we can do it here, but you could add a person. We only have 7, and Madison has 9. with many more electeds. So make sure when we're doing this that we
Probably
are
wouldn't want to
thinking,
just add one because then
No,
we'd
you get the tie.
we'd want to stay.
which is
high.
probably why they did the 9. Okay, thank you for that. Alder Cole.
So my support of the ordinance change or the amendment and the amendment that Alderman Haniro put forward is that it expands what the potential commission can look like. And I think by limiting the mayor's designee to to only an alder person is getting more prescriptive and getting away from the intent of the change, which is to some of what the mayor is saying, but also I see the intent is that this aligns also then with our state laws about plan commission design and structure, which allows for mayors to either appoint themselves or a designee, so that this does align with those state requirements. We've been more prescriptive than state law in the past. I think that also the purpose and use of designees is that they are an individual selected by the executive who makes and should be representative of that executive and can be revoked by the prerogative of that executive at whatever level of government we're talking. And so I think if we are wanting to add more alder power on or influence or decision-making onto plan commission, I believe it should be an additional position that we consider separately and apart from this designee situation. I also think that the council has a great deal of authority in decision-making of the plan commission structure by selecting one alder person and confirming the 4 citizen members. So we already have a fair amount of, more than fair amount of say on the commission. I'm not opposed to adding additional alder, but I am opposed to constricting the mayor's designee.
Just one comment, because I haven't commented on anything tonight. I talked to the mayor about this, and this is one of the things that I don't see coming through that I just want to point out, because we demonstrated it here tonight in our decision with the flu map decision. So at the end of the day, the Common Council votes and makes a decision, regardless of what a commission or committee does. I think what the mayor wants to do is be a politician, which is a good thing. It's kind of her job to sell and promote and look at the really big ideas of the city and the big direction of the city. So unbinding her and allowing her just to kind of go out and do that and say, oh, why don't you go take this to the plan commission? I'll stay out of it now. You got some ideas, some developments, some changes, big ideas for the city. Then that's her job. Go out and do that. Press the flesh, make some friends, talk to developers, talk to business people, talk to whoever, and bring those ideas into the city. And then let the plan commission do its job and worry about the color of paint or the trim on a doorknob or whatever it boils down to at the end of the day, because it's going to end up back in front of the Common Council for a vote. So that's my reason for supporting this the way it is. Now, as to the second part, I didn't think about that, Alder Nelson. That's really smart. That's a really clever idea, but my brain isn't going to work anymore on that.
I don't know why.
So
I think it's in their national politics that has me going there.
I don't know what to do on adding or not appointing an alder in place of the mayor on the plan commission. I would need more time to kind of think through that one. Sorry.
I'm going to tend to back off of that because I really like what Alder Cole said about our power as a council on it.
And I would note, I don't think there was a second.
I was just going to clarify that with council.
I don't know that I made a motion, did I?
You did, yeah, there just was not a.
Just figured out the language and everything I wanted to do.
Leave it for the discussion.
Well,
about
I'll read
it.
it to us. Let us hear it. Well, now I don't want to share.
Like that one.
Sorry, Larry.
All right, so can you help me where we're at?
Yeah, so there was a second amendment made by Alder Nelson to change the mayor's designee to be an appointment of another older person in their place. That failed for lack of a second. So we are back at the amended main motion, which the amendments which we'd previously passed 5-3 was to utilize the Fitchburg language related to the composition of the Plan Commission and change his or her to their, and then all the other language in the ordinance would be as is with those amendments that I just mentioned. So that's what's presently on the floor for voting.
Call the vote. So all those in favor of passing the ordinance noted as amended?
I thought we already
We did.
passed it.
We
Pass the amendment.
approved
Pass
the
the
amendment.
You approved the amendments, now you need to approve the ordinance as it's been amended.
So we're back to the base or ordinance second reading. Ordinance to revise section 2.06 of the Middleton Municipal Code to permit the mayor to choose whether to sit on plan commission or make appointment with the stated amended language. Please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Passes 6-2. Thank you. All right. Discussion and the discussion section, number 1, discussion and potential action on selection of council members for cooperative plan negotiations with Town of Middleton. I think we all remember where this discussion was. And last that I remember, we nominated, I think, almost everyone except for the not returning folks. So that's okay. That's fair. Brian, do you have a suggested step forward?
Sure. So there's a couple ways that you could do this. The alders could nominate or make a motion to approve individuals individually. So, spot 1, somebody makes a motion, you vote on it. Depending on how that vote goes, you go to the next one. Or somebody could make a package of, say, the 3 older persons that they would recommend, and then the body would vote on that separate motion. So however the body wants to handle it.
If you don't mind, I'd like to move that I'd like to nominate Alders Lorman, Crow, and Hanairo to represent Middleton at the cooperative plan negotiation with Town of Middleton.
Is there a second?
This is Jackson. I'll second.
Any comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of nominating Alder Lorman, Alder Crow, and Alder Hanairo to serve on the cooperative plan negotiations, I'm guessing a committee, with the Town of Middleton, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
Okay, motion passes 7-1. Is that accurate? All right. All right, any updates on committees, commissions, and boards? Right, it's fairly late. We've had a robust conversation. I think we're good there. So for that reason, save your committee updates for next time or share it maybe with Brian. And with that, I adjourn the meeting.